Let's take a look at a piece of freeware called Picturenaut for Windows. It's about high dynamic range imaging, so what's all that about? Well, the unimpaired human eye has what you'd call a high dynamic range, and here are some now. It's able to look at a scene of wildly varying contrast and make out both shadow detail and highlights without any burning in or blowing out. Cameras are comparatively rubbish at this. Take a look at this. The metering system's got it all wrong. It's metered off dark areas and blown out the snow, which actually to the naked eye looked quite good. We'll take a more extreme example. Shooting against the sky, you can see there's no detail in the sky, even though there were clouds about that day, and the shadows on those stilt walkers are just too deep. Should have used a flash really, but didn't quite work out. Now shooting straight into the sun is even more challenging. You'll see that the camera's metered off the sun, which gives a nice silhouette of the trees, but what is that big black blob at left? If we meter off the foreground, well, it's quite obviously a glacial boulder on a pillar of pebbles. What else? But of course the sun has burnt out and the trees don't look so impressive anymore. What we need is a series of images taken at different shutter speeds that we can then composite into an image of high dynamic range. Naturally, you'll need a tripod for this in order to keep the camera absolutely still so you can marry up the images. And the next job is to bring him into that masterpiece of interface design, that is Picturenaut. And here it is now, just look at the design there. Well, okay, so the developer hasn't gone a bundle on creating a flashy interface, but it's a quick program to use. And what we want to do first of all is open our image files. Now you can create an HDRI composite from just 3 bracketed images, but if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing, and we've gone for 12. There's exposure correction, by which we'll attempt to optimize each exposure, automatic image alignment just below, which in this case won't work. It was a windy day, the branches of the trees were moving, and so it's going to have a nightmare job trying to match them all up. But we'll check it anyway and see what happens. Then there's colour balancing, which the developer suggests is not usually necessary, and then pixel weighting. And this is all highly complex, but it's down to pixel values. We'll go for derivative, but you can experiment with these values if you've got particularly difficult shots, such as those taken at night. And then we'll just use the curve setting. Every model of camera has a tonal response curve, and it will attempt to compensate for that. As predicted, image alignment has failed, and while it's busy working out what's necessary, if you're not sure what tonal response curve actually means, well, if you imagine that, say, every model of electric guitar has a different tonal sound, then it's similar with cameras, but visually. So it's combining the images into one composite. Takes a little while, but once it's there, it's pretty quick and easy to start making tweaks, which is what we're going to do next. Give it a few seconds, and then it will tell you that the result has been successful. I hope. There we go, success. And here it is. Now that's not hugely impressive, but we're not done yet. I'll fill the screen, fit image to view, and then under the mode menu, under image, you can see that we can go for 32 bits per channel, which is quite a huge tonal range, and we're looking to imitate the human eye, so we'll go for photoreceptor physiology for the tone mapping, which will bring up a new dialog. It's possible to adjust the exposure with the top slider, dynamic compression if need be, saturation, colour saturation, and contrast. But here's the fun bit, a histogram at the bottom which looks awfully like levels, and it operates in a similar fashion. Bring in that slider, and you can see the main view is updating very quickly indeed. No guesswork here. Weave means to adjust gamma, but we'll use the default setting. Output format, I think we'll go, instead of 32-bit, that's a bit excessive, 16-bit. And then click on OK, and it'll quickly update the result. And you can see the progress bar. And that's much more splendid looking, although you notice, we go for full size, the feathering in the trees where the branches were moving. Now let's compare it with the original, stark silhouette, no foreground detail, and then we go back to our result. You can see that even the grass is green. If you've never actually indulged in HDRI, then pop along to the Picturenaut.com website, and it's got a gallery of examples of particularly stunning images, some taken at night, some during daylight. They're well worth checking out, and it might just encourage you to try out this particularly intriguing photographic technique for yourself.